Ooh, can they hear us?
You know they're out there.
What? Oh,
You know they're out there, don't you?
Big D Brewing. Oh, it's a big ditch out of Buffalo. This is Cyclops Romance. No. Brewed with Nelson Sauvin? Motica, and Vic Secret hops. It's floral. That's what I have to say about it. They say it's citrusy, but I get like a real floral note. Yeah, this is it says and Vic Secret hops from New Zealand and Australia. Yeah, it's really good. It's just, you know, it's really floral, which is like unique to me in like an IPA to get like real floral notes, but no, like it's less piney and more like walking through a field of flowers, like floral.
Where do you come from?
It's interesting.
Another galaxy.
I don't have a better word for it. It's interesting.
You know they're out there. You know they're out there.
Oh, yeah. I have 2.5 more days on my season.
You know.
Well, I've already been getting up at 3 a.m. every day to deal with some of the snow and getting ready for it and whatever. So waking up at 3 a.m. every day sucks, but I'm getting used to it, getting in the habit. And after Saturday, I will officially be done with like regular season. Yeah, that'll just be snow. Yeah. Yeah. This will be my 6th winter doing this. Yep. It's a good time. But it gives me a lot more time, obviously, in the winter to make content, do things, be around, yada, yada, yada. So I just got done designing some new stuff for the Patreon and things like that. Some other ideas in the works here. So pretty stoked for it. Doing the damn thing.
In the history of television, great men and women have brought us up-to-the-minute news as it happens. From the moon landing to the dangers of secondhand smoke. Sometimes they even make us laugh. The one thing that stays the same, everyone wants to know what's in the news. From the Voss
You know what I
News
should
Network, your hosts, Poonsauce McNasty,
Open
and
the
to give the
stream.
show some
Get
credibility, Logan Exhales. And now, back to the studio.
Bro, I feel like we haven't done one of these shows in like 6 years. I mean, listen, in the world of vaping, 3 weeks is basically 6 years. So Yeah, no, we usually piece these shows together at the very last minute. In case anybody thought that like Corey and I were like, you know, really good at this and we have like day-to-day meetings leading up to the show and we're always right on time and like it's no. It was 30 minutes before today. Well, you messaged me last night, right? Like again, like I've been getting up at 3 a.m. getting ready for like winter work because that's what time I get up to deal with snow and all sorts of stuff. And Corey messaged me last night, like after 8:30, and he was like, "Hey, you want to do a meeting before tomorrow's show?" And I was like, "Bro, I'm so dead right now." We can't hear you? I can hear you. So I will start sign languaging everything that Corey says. Hold on, let me go learn sign language really quick first.
Oh, what the hell? That was weird. Oh, shit. We're fixed now. Whenever OBS does like an update or something, it just completely messes with like sometimes it like resets settings to where it's like for my mic it was set to default, not the actual microphone, so there's no audio coming from me. So hey, now that I'm able to say this and you can hear me, welcome to an episode of What's the News. We've been just rambling for a good like 3 minutes now, and you not be able to hear me, but that's perfectly fine. If you haven't kind of figured it out, we were kind of talking about how schedules kind of were a little bit on and off for the past 3 weeks. Us weren't able to do a show, but schedules finally worked out today, so we're here for one for you guys. So, but before we get into all the meat and potatoes of all we got to talk about this evening, it wouldn't be a vape show without us talking about what the hell we're vaping on, because it's like it's vaping law that if you have a vape show, you have to tell what you're vaping on.
It absolutely is. Like even on Sundays when I do the come down, which isn't really like a vaping show, like I guess
you
it
hanging
kind
out
of
on Instagram drinking beer and doing
it's
stuff.
just like kind of my thing, right? I still do a buffet. Like I still talk about what I've been vaping.
Yeah, why not?
You have to.
I feel like you have to, yeah.
Like you it's like law. It's like an unspoken law.
Right. But who wants to go first? You want to go first? I'll go first. I don't care.
Sure. So I've been vaping meat and potatoes. And
meat and potatoes, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah, that would be pretty rough. There's been discussion though about me vaping a ranch e-liquid. Someone is supposed to be sending me a ranch e-liquid.
Well, it's probably
insect.
not as bad as Legion vaping his ham and cheese flavor that he likes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know about
he
that.
likes it too.
Anyways, pretty standard here. Yard Mod 2.0. It's the Aegis, whatever it is, with the Anakin's light on top. And in there, I've got some 12 milligram Angel Sauce from the Plume Room. Angel Sauce is like it's like a raspberry lime sherbet.
Sounds delicious.
Really good, real tasty. I'm gonna have a little toot here. Delicious. And I only have one other setup going right now, and it's the Titan V2. I've got not an OG, but I've got a Goon 1.5 sitting on top with a titanium OG cap. And in that, I've got the last little bit of this Freeman's Maximum Overdrive. This is it's a watermelon and berries. Super sweet, very like candy.
Yeah. Like
very candy.
I feel like if you're using Goon 1.5, you have to use the OG cap. It's like
you got to use the OG cap, and it's actually it's a vape stew OG cap.
Oh, look at that.
Repping the stew here just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I have a beer tonight. Corey, unfortunately, he does not have a beer. He already consumed his beer earlier on his little beer review that he did.
Very true.
Yeah, it's very true. But I have a beer tonight. It's a beer from Big Ditch right out of Buffalo. Just one of my favorite breweries. This is Cyclops Romance. It's an IPA, real floral, little bit of bitterness to it, which is really nice. It's hoppy. It's hazy. It's delicious. And that's it. That's my
at the bottom of the glass right now.
What's that?
How much sediment's at the bottom of the glass?
Not much.
Just a little bit of sinkers.
Just a few little flakes in there. I mean, but it's hazy.
Oh yeah.
You know.
And that's
but it's good, man. It's interesting. Like we were talking about this before. I'm an IPA guy. IPAs are like my go-to. I want hops. I want high IBUs. I want Cascade. You know, I just want hops. Like, I'm an IPA guy. It's what I crave. But it's rare to get like a real floral IPA. You know, IPAs tend to be piney, real hoppy, maybe citrusy, some bitterness, some sweetness in there. But like this IPA, I don't have a better word for it other than floral. It's like walking through a field of like hops and daisies, you know. But it's really good, and I'm enjoying it. So that's my whole buffet. Corey, what do you got going on?
Well, I'll start off with my drink. I got a nice big old glass of water because hydration.
I drank plenty of that earlier today. I have since switched.
They actually got 3 setups today instead of like the usual 2. Some of them you've probably seen before, at least one part of it. You got the GT4S on top of the bar from Midnight Mods, little DNA 75C.
I never see you without that.
The GT4S at least.
Like that, just that setup, or at least
this Addy's moving on freaking 2 to 3 different mods at all times. This has to be in rotation at all times.
Yeah.
But next, I got what's in there. Actually, in there, I got some Pony on Acid in there.
Ooh.
And it's let me take the cap.
Is that legit Pony on Acid
yeah.
or renamed? Oh yeah.
Liquid Gold.
Does it say Pony on Acid on the label?
Yes, it does. Let me see if I'll get the.
Yeah, real POA.
Yeah, Pony on Acid right there.
I mean, it's the same liquid, but
yeah, it's just a different name.
Yeah.
And then next, I got my Captain with my Bellotto. Got some Coil Turd, 2.5mm 27s in there. They're like
which blotto is that?
Just
the
original. Because it's.
I love the original blotto.
I want the 28.
I know a lot of people
bad.
that don't love the original blotto. I'm a huge fan of the OG blotto.
I'm waiting for that 28 to come out because then you can put some like your mech builds in there and be like, ooh, golden. And plus they changed up the deck a little bit on it.
Yeah.
Which looks nice. And inside of the blotto, I got some Nom's White Peach Raspberry in there. I always like Noms. They make some good stuff.
I've never had Noms.
It's like not too overly sweet, but there's a good amount of sweetness in there.
If I were to judge Noms based solely on their branding and the bottles, I would be like, that's a bottle of sucralose.
Right?
Like, it looks like the sweetest liquid.
Yeah, but it's not too bad. It's actually pretty clean from what I've already had. Like a couple tank fills in there, and coils still look brand new. And then next, got the Sigelei 213. I'm using a bunch of old regulated mods just because they're still working and I love them. But on top of there, I got the Reload 26, which is a great top airflow tank. If nobody's ever used it, you should. With, of course, 2 out of the 3 setups have DHD tips on there because DHD chop tops are life. And,
I guess I should have mentioned that's a Swifty on top of here.
And then finally, inside of the Reload 26, I got some super good, the Gooseberry Fizz Champagne, Gooseberry, and Elderflower, which is phenomenal. I haven't had a bad liquid from Super Good yet, and I'm down to my last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bottles out of the 15.
You know, man, I wish that I wasn't sometimes the person that I am, because Super Good had hit me up actually during a come down stream that I was doing. They hit me up and they were like, "Hey, Logan, we really want to send you a bunch of liquid for you to try." You know, they were in chatting with me and stuff. And I messaged them and I was like, "Look, guys, like we have an online ban here. We have a flavor ban in New York. I don't want you guys to send me liquid because I don't want, you know, anything to come back on you guys, any problems, stuff like that. I have a lot of respect for you as a company and I don't want anything to happen." I kind of wish I wasn't me sometimes because I would love to try Super Good.
Are fantastic.
And here I am over here like, no, you know, no, don't do that to yourselves.
And plus, this is like some of the most cleanest, sophisticated branding you can do on a.
Oh yeah, dude. I love their branding, and everybody that I've talked to that has had Super Good loves it. So
yeah, it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. That's all I got going for setups this evening. But am I missing anything? No, I don't have any.
Oh, I was going to tell you, I've never tried that Reload 26, but I have the Reload MTL, and it is a phenomenal MTL.
Reload makes good tanks. Reload makes some really good tanks.
That tank is a beautiful tank. The flavor on it's phenomenal. The airflow is killer. It's great.
I'm not 100% sure if they're even around anymore, though, to be honest.
Reload? Oh gosh, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I know District 5's done and all that stuff, so I was like, I don't know if they're kind of in that
Does
same-
District 5 still do because didn't they move more into like the hemp
I think they started
CBD
doing like Delta 8 and stuff.
stuff like that? Yeah, I think District 5 is still around, but I don't think they're doing anything with nicotine anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so, or any kind of like atomizers or something like that.
Yeah.
But we got a bunch of stuff to talk about this evening. Of course, I actually wanted to. I'm going to change my kind of what we were gonna, the order of we were gonna talk about things. And I want to start with this just to kind of get it in your guys' heads, so you guys don't forget to do it. But where is it? Where'd you go? 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 Right here. Then it's end of 2021, so you know what that means. We have the E-Cig Intelligence Consumer Survey that's coming around this year. It's a great survey that does so many different things. It helps out the industry. So, of course, you can find it on CASA's website. They pretty much blast it all over because it's. You can find it on Twitter. People are blasting it all around. But I'm going to throw it in chat for you guys. Please do the survey. It's a great survey, and it helps with kind of.
Takes like 5 minutes.
No, not even.
Yeah, I mean it's super quick and easy, and it really, I mean, not only just industry wise, but for consumer orgs, orgs like CASA, this tells us a lot about what people are using, the devices, how people are vaping, what the trends are like, what their needs are, what the needs of adult consumers are, income brackets, who's vaping, what are they vaping, things like that. That can tell us a lot of things, so we can communicate those needs to lawmakers, policymakers, things like that. So absolutely, not only is it's good for the industry to know these things as well, trends and where people are moving to and whatnot and why, but it's also really useful for consumer organizations and just for consumers in general.
Yeah, so always recommend doing the survey. It usually comes out like maybe towards the end of November. They start kind of pushing it out, and then once we start getting into like December, that's when it's like, let's do this, let's get it all done. And just
don't know off the top of my head when that survey ends.
Let's see. I don't know if it says anywhere in here, but just do the survey is what I look.
Do the survey. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head when it ends.
I don't think I saw anywhere on here where it says when it ends. But yeah, always going to recommend doing that because it's like Logan said, it helps for consumer orgs to find out a bunch of information that they can use the next following year when it comes to what battles we need to fight, what kind of things we need to focus on, all that kind of stuff. And it's a great platform to see like what the trend of the industry is in the U.S. right now.
And CASA and E-Cig Intelligence like work cooperatively on this and with this. So,
right.
Yeah, please do it. It really doesn't take long. 5 minutes of your time. Answer it as honestly and accurately as you can, and move on with your day. Super easy, super simple.
Yeah, I'll post it again in chat towards the end just to kind of remind you guys. So once you're done over here, you can go over and do the survey. But I wanted to jump into like a little bit of the meat potatoes of course, you saw it in the title with nicotine taxes going around. We already knew about the federal one that was introduced to the Better Budget bill.
Oh yeah,
And,
the Build Back Smoking Bill.
Oh, they changed the name?
CASA changed the name.
Oh, yeah.
We changed the name because I mean, yeah, it's the Build Back Better plan.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular part of the Build Back Better plan is really the Build Back Smoking plan.
Right. So we all know that it passed the House already. So it still has to go through the Senate, and then it has to go on the president's desk, and then boom. But there's a couple full things that are happening on the statewide level that's kind of giving a little, I don't want to say it's not giving concern, but it's kind of maybe having you think to where there's a few states that are kind of implementing their own statewide nicotine tax, to where maybe senators and legislators from those specific states that are in Congress and all that stuff do not feeling too confident that this federal bill is going to pass with that nicotine language on there. So,
Yeah,
now-
I mean, this is one of those things like you and I were talking about before the show where, your senators, particularly your senators in this instance, because this is moving to the Senate, maybe are looking at this and going, maybe this isn't going to stick. There's some bumps in the road. There's some roadblocks along the way. Maybe there's a few senators out there who are actively working to get this language removed. And so they're taking that like kind of precautionary principle into effect here, thinking that this may not move forward federally. So they need to take it upon themselves to introduce it at the state level. So this is always one of those back and forth things. And anybody who's been doing this long enough knows that we go, from very local up to the state level, up to federal, and then we're right back to fighting local and state stuff. And I mean, that's just the month by month playbook that we live by, right? And that's what we're seeing right now.
Right, and so there's 3 states we're going to talk about. First one we're going to talk about is Arizona, which we'll kind of explain here. So on Friday, November 19th, the House of Representatives passed the bill, yada, 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 ridiculous federal tax of vaping and other smoke-free nicotine products. The tax amounts to 0.028 per milligram of nicotine. While this might not sound like much, the same tax was applied to cigarettes, and it would be 5 to 6 times this current rate. This is an equivalency tax, and it's all an assault on safer alternatives. Well, Arizona Senator, was it Kristen Sinema?
Cinema? Yeah.
Needs to hear from you, because everyone who knows about the benefit from safer, affordable alternatives to smoking included friends and loved ones. So what it has here is contact Senator Slibu, who pretty much, she's the one that introduced this bill. And I don't know, is there any details? Let me see. The bill text. Let's see if there's a specific spot that shows like what the tax would be, or is it like the equal amount of what was on the Build Better plan?
I it's relatively close, if not the same.
Let me see if we can find it here. Drug pricing. Let's see. Let's see where we can find it. Let's see. Okay, so of course you go to the call to action for if you're in the state of Arizona, and of course you don't want a statewide nicotine tax that could possibly destroy the industry within the state of Arizona. This is a call to action that you definitely want to do. So of course that's going to go in chat for you guys right there. Contact us, Senator Sinema. Of course, the cool thing about this call to action is her phone number to her office is right there for everybody to kind of see and everything. So of course it shows the state of things. So it bill was introduced, passed the House, so now it's working on the statewide Senate right now before it goes. No, actually, what?
Okay, so this Arizona deal that we have out is more about it's actually more about the Build Back Better plan.
Okay.
And this is reaching out to Kirsten Sinema in Arizona, because she's actually one of the people who may be able to block this or have that language removed.
Okay.
So this isn't necessarily like a call to action about a bill in Arizona. This is more of a please reach out to somebody who is actively like opposing this, or is currently kind of in the realm of being able to do something about this and oppose this. Okay. So Arizona, you do Tempe, Arizona does have there's a flavor ban or two in Arizona going on right
Tempe,
now that
so
people
the flavor ban
that's the call to action that we have for Arizona.
Okay.
That's actually an active call to action, flavor ban call to action in Arizona. The Arizona contact Senator Sinema post that we have up on CASA is about the federal nicotine tax. So yes, it is the same tax. It is the same amount. It's literally it's the same thing. This is just reaching out to her specifically because she's in a position to do something about this. Gotcha. So there we go. Just to kind of clarify, I guess, all of that.
Okay. So it looks like we got the same thing. There's a few different senators that CASA's like kind of telling you to kind of direct your
Manchin's another one. Manchin's going to be another one that people can absolutely and should reach out to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the senator in West Virginia, I believe. The Manchin, right?
Oh God, I can never remember.
Yeah,
what
it's West
Manchin-
Virginia. So
Yeah,
of course,
sounds right.
3 states have good contacts over there. Of course, you got Nevada here with Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who's 3 individuals that can possibly make some changes that happens with this. Because if you get in contact,
At least
with them,
create a great roadblock.
yeah,
Yeah. So maybe if that language can't be removed, it could at least be altered. We could see that tax maybe significantly lowered, hopefully removed altogether, right? Like that's
the end.
that's the goal here. But
thrown into some stupid budget bill.
I mean, it's the Build Back Better plan is not necessarily a budget bill as much as it is an infrastructure bill, if that makes sense. But yeah, these are senators that are in a position to do something about this. So absolutely reach out to them.
Let's see if there's any other call to actions that are right here. I think the last time we talked about Portland. We talked about Washington County, of course, Arizona. Then make sure to have, if you're in these 3 states, have this person's phone number / email address kind of bookmarked for you, and just send an email once a day. Just post your concerns about the federal nicotine tax, because that's still like the main concern right now. It's still a huge, like, heavy on the industry, to where it's like, this is still a possibility. It's not like it's still in the stages. I think it's kind of been slow a little bit due to like the Thanksgiving break and all that. Then who knows? We might not even see anything happen till after the holidays with it.
With Build Back Better plan,
Yeah.
we're most likely going to see something before the holidays.
Okay, yeah, because they have to get it in before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe it has to be done before the end of the year. But really quick, those call to action updates. Portland, Maine, flavor ban in Portland, Maine, 3-0 vote by the committee. It's moved the proposal to consideration by the full council. They're most likely to vote on it next month. So if you're in Portland, Maine, and you haven't reached out yet, please do. We have an active call to action still up for that at CASA. Tempe, Arizona, moving forward with a ban on flavored tobacco and nicotine products, including synthetic. Will likely start back up in 2022, so stay alert. And Denver, Colorado, another flavor ban out there. The ordinance has been added to the meeting on November 29th, so we're already past that. It already happened at 5:30 p.m. And I don't have any updates on that. I haven't heard anything rumbling through CASA about Denver, Colorado. Most likely, hopefully, Alex, Kristen, and I will have an update for Denver, Colorado on Saturday over on the CASA stream. So if you are in Denver, Colorado, or friends, family in Denver, Colorado, or you're just curious to see what happened, I would highly recommend tuning in Saturday, and hopefully we can give an update there.
Yeah, hopefully hopefully for the good. That'd be
I don't know what it is about Colorado, man, that just, especially specifically Denver, that just keeps trying this.
I don't know. It's weird, because wasn't Denver like one of the first cities in Colorado to like legalize cannabis?
Yeah, and I mean, it's Colorado. You know? I mean, when I think of like live free or die states, I think New Hampshire and Colorado.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? But they keep trying it, man. They won't let this flavor ban idea die. It's been beaten back numerous times, and it just keeps making its fucking way around, man. I just don't get what's going on in Denver.
Yeah, it just keeps on kicking. It's like once the door is closed, somebody kicks it back open again.
Yeah, somebody else introduces them. They're like, oh, well, they failed at it. Let me try. And it's just like, come on, just let it die.
I'm trying to think what this it's just a straight up ban. I don't know if there's any other kind of info about it.
Yeah,
Just
Colorado, man.
let's see, when's the actual? So it's Monday, December 6th, which would be next Monday. Is moving forward, and the final vote will be on Monday. So that'd be kind of the nail biting kind of time, 5:30. So if you're, I don't know if they're still doing.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah,
public
yeah.
hearings
I guess I should
where you
have
can
just
go
clicked
to
on the thing.
these city councils and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if you can actually go to that, or there might be a Zoom meeting that you can appear in.
I mean, it there's no mention of this being a virtual thing. City and council building, council chambers, room 450, 1437 Bannock Street, Denver, Colorado. So this might be something that's open to the public. If you're in Denver, Colorado, I would highly recommend heading over to their council site, the city council site, looking at the agenda and finding out if this is something that you can go and testify at.
At least
or maybe you can phone in.
1:30 in the afternoon that they usually do.
It's yeah. I mean, I'm actually pretty impressed that it's 5:30 at night on a Monday. Just the 5:30 p.m. thing is kind of outstanding because you're right. It's always on like a Tuesday at 1 p.m.
where it's like, everybody's at work and nobody.
That's why they do it. That's absolutely why they do it.
Such a scumbag thing to do.
It really is, dude. It really is. Oh, you know how we're going to get the least opposition from the working class? Let's do it while they're working. But yeah, if you can attend this, do it. If not, if you live in Denver, Colorado, or you have friends or family again in Denver, Colorado, or literally somebody that you met once in Denver, Colorado, have them do this call to action. As always, CASA has everything basically filled out and typed up for you. Put your story in, include your testimony, and email.
Okay,
done.
So apparently Surug said the bill's been revised so many damn times. He's revised
For Colorado? Yeah, dude, it just keeps coming around. Like, it's absurd. Colorado just can't let this idea die. Mm-hmm. They are bound and determined to ban flavors.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Colorado, of all places, should understand the underground market and not want it. But
and if you guys are looking for a nice kind of source of like a weekly version of what you can find out when it comes to new research that comes out, different call to actions, and all in one collective spot, instead of having to go to the different tabs and all that kind of stuff and figure out what there's updates on, what kind of is done in different stages and all that good stuff, always can recommend going to the blog area of CASA's website because it...
Yeah. Every week, just about, basically every single week, Kristen works really hard at putting the CASA blog together. Mm-hmm. So a huge shout out to Kristen for all the work 100%. That she puts in on this. But every single week, this really, I mean, and the blog every week is really the majority of what we do the CASA stream off of. Every now and again, we may visit some older stuff, some older news articles, things like that. But typically, we pull right out of what Kristen assembles for the blog. And we tend to highlight the biggest things, the really need to know kind of big hot button topics. But there's always a lot of stuff in the CASA blog. And I recommend checking it out every week. It's a great way to
source of information. That's actually what's going to lead us to what Logan would like to talk about. I believe you talked about this on Saturday.
I haven't talked about this at all.
Oh,
yet.
So you've been
we didn't have a CASA stream the past 2 weeks actually. Mm-hmm. So 2 weeks ago, Alex had family stuff going on and I had family stuff going on. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have a stream then. And then last week, we took the holiday weekend off for Thanksgiving and such. So we'll be back. CASA will be back this week, just so everybody is aware. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to talk about this. Philadelphia. Yeah. We're gonna visit the city of brotherly love for a minute. I can share a link in chat, I believe. So I'm going to share this link right out of Filter Mag. If you guys are not subscribed, following, checking out Filter, I highly recommend it. It's a great source of information regarding harm reduction, not only for vaping and smoking and nicotine, but for drugs in general. But Philly's addiction treatment smoking ban ends, finally. So the horribly misguided smoking and vaping ban in Philadelphia's city-funded drug treatment programs, including outdoor spaces, has finally been lifted. The ban was passed in 2018 and implemented in 2019 by the City Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services. It applied to 80 inpatient addiction treatment programs, including 9 detox facilities, 32 short-term and 31 long-term rehabilitation programs, and 8 halfway houses. They go on to talk about after years of defending its policy as evidence-based, responding to critics by citing research that suggested helping people quit and remain abstinent from smoking improves their chances of recovery from substance use disorder. It does not. Yeah, this is one of those things in Philadelphia, and I don't know if anybody is on Twitter actively following Brooke Fieldman. She's been talking about this for years now and how detrimental she works very closely in harm reduction and with people who use drugs. She's been talking about this for a few years now since it went into effect and how detrimental it's been. Over the past 3 years, I'll quote out of this article here, over the past 3 years, this monumental step backwards from a harm reduction oriented approach has led to preventable overdose death, reincarceration, and other drug use related harms. Feldman, a co-founder of Pennsylvania Harm Reduction Network, told Filter, when somebody says they want to stop using deadly fentanyl, but they are not looking to or ready to stop smoking or vaping, we need to roll out the red carpet and usher that person into treatment as if it were an urgent life or death matter, because in Philadelphia and beyond, it most certainly is. Yes, absolutely, 100%. I mean, the idea that somebody, I'm just gonna go from personal experience here. Yeah. When I was actively, I guess, working on stopping my meth usage, when I was giving up methamphetamine, one of the things that I was ready to die on that hill was, you don't touch my cigarettes.
Right.
I'll stop doing this. I'll stop doing these other things. I'll stop using these drugs, but you keep your fucking hands off my cigarettes. And that is a very, very real thing. We all have vices. We all have needs. We all need to take that edge off. And when we're actively working on giving up a drug that we're having problematic use with, having something to fall back on, something as benign as nicotine to fall back on, is literally a life or death decision for people. And there are people out there who are not going to go into treatment facilities. And in our blog, there's another article shared from Billy Kinkle, I believe back in 2018 or 2019. Corey, if you could find that and drop that in chat. Yeah. And he shares a story about a friend of his who was actively going through treatment when that ban took effect, left treatment so he could continue to smoke because it was just too much to try and recover from using opioids and to give up smoking at the same time. He was later found, I don't know, in a ditch on the side of the road somewhere, and ended up essentially brain dead. And it's a really heart-wrenching story about something that could have very easily been prevented had we just let this guy go out and smoke a cigarette.
Let's talk about this story really quick, because it's kind of impactful, and I think some people need to hear this because it's something.
Yeah, so please share it. This is one of those things, like I relate to this very deeply, and I'm just really happy for Philadelphia and the people in Philadelphia who use drugs and are trying to get treatment, who smoke or vape, that this ban has been lifted, and this is a huge step in the right direction. But yeah, go ahead, please.
So the article says, I met Bobby in 2011 when we were both residents at a local recovery house. Bobby was 19 years old and I was 37. So it's an understatement to say we had initially difficulty finding common ground. But over time we developed a close friendship, a bond which helped to lay the foundation for my recovery from opioid addiction and the path to wellness. Bobby, whose last name I'm omitted to protect his family's privacy, exhibited the genuineness rarely seen in an addiction/recovery world. He brought a childlike perspective into a house of pain, which is a catalyst for healing, and it was not uncommon to see men in the house struggling with depression, and Bobby would typically be the guy who showed up with encouraging words and a hug. For some strange reason, he seemed able to enter therapeutic relationships with people the rest of us were excluded from. A few years back, I suffered a reoccurrence of problematic use, also means relapse, and lost touch with Bobby. Later, I learned that Bobby, like myself, had become a father, and that his event sparked an episode of depression and insecurity that also led him to resume problematic use, which is another relapse it had made with me years earlier. Eventually, he found recovery again and began working in the recovery harm reduction space. This past summer, I ran into Bobby at the local syringe service program in Philadelphia. He described how he's been struggling with opioid use disorder and subsequently, and with homelessness. In the second half of 2019, I began to visit Bobby regularly on the street of Philadelphia where he was living, discussing available treatment options with him. Beginning January 1st, 2019, city public health officials implemented a ban on smoking at publicly funded addiction treatment programs, including outdoor spaces. Philadelphia ranks second among the large U.S. cities for overdose death rates. Advocates have long been concerned about the unintended consequences of this policy, namely a rise in patients leaving treatment prematurely and increased barriers to their smoking treatment in the first place. The great concern in the context of Philadelphia's fentanyl adulterated drug supply has been the increased overdose risk for patients who return to use with lower opioid tolerance after a brief period of abstinence. So it's like you're using a lot.
This is a really common thing, right? Opioid tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of people who see all these articles out there or see all these headlines about, oh, they had enough fentanyl in them to kill a horse. Sure, maybe if the horse had never used opioids before, but that's not how opioids work. You develop a tolerance and you continually need to use more and more and more and more. We saw this with pill mills back during, the Oxy heyday. This was discussed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. As you continue to use opioids, you build a tolerance, you need more and more and more. Well, when you stop using opioids, even if it's for a short period of time, a few weeks, your tolerance decreases pretty quickly. Therefore, if you were to stop, go into treatment, and then leave treatment, now sober, off of opioids, whatever, and you go to use the amount that you were using when you went into treatment, when you had a tolerance, that's a recipe for an overdose right there. And that's one of the things that was going on. People were going into treatment, and then they couldn't smoke, they couldn't leave, they couldn't do whatever they had to go do. They left the facilities, would go back to using. There you go.
And so I'll get back to this. So there's a quote right here where it says, every time he spoke, Bobby made it clear that he would not enter a treatment facility which prohibited smoking. Then afterwards it says, Bobby explained that he had entered a treatment facility in March 2019, 3 months into the smoking ban, but he had left against medical advice because the struggle of to abstain from opioids and nicotine simultaneously had proven too difficult. Well, I feel a sneeze coming. Okay. And then it continues and says, every time we spoke, Bobby made it clear that, every time we spoke, he made it clear that he would not enter a treatment facility that prohibited smoking. One day, I was sitting with him on an abandoned couch in a vacant lot where he lamented not being home with his children, which it's a terrible thing to think about. You're being homeless and you can't even be home to see your own kids. It's a terrible feeling. And then what he said is, I just want to stop. I don't want to be out here anymore. He said, I miss my kids. I want to be a good father. But it's so hard with the smoking ban. It's just stupid and too much. Although replacing cigarettes with vapes would have been a good option for him, the Philadelphia treatment smoking ban unconscionably also extends to vaping. And the last time I saw Bobby was late December. He was walking along Kingston Avenue with a large blanket around him, trying to keep warm in a sub-freezing temperature. Even in the unbearable cold, he tearfully explained that quit smoking was too difficult for him to consider while managing his opioid use disorder. On January 31st, I received a call telling me that Bobby had been found unconscious in the street. He was subsequently revived through CPR, but had been down too long without oxygen and suffered irreplaceable brain damage, resulting to pretty much him becoming brain dead. Bobby then became an organ and tissue donor. He was 28 years old and had a young son and 2 daughters. We are continuing to make, let's see if anything, this just goes around kind of explaining his kind of feelings about it. Of course, you have a picture of Bobby with a surfboard. I think that's Bobby, yeah. It's heartbreaking to see something like that. It's just proof that regulation right there can kill somebody. Because
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking because
Just sad as fuck, man. That's what it is.
you denied a father having a potential future with his children.
You denied a man his life simply because of nicotine.
It's just
Yeah, so thank you, Philadelphia, for finally turning your shit around.
yeah, that's a huge step, and hopefully
Yeah.
you could find people like Bobby out there who is still struggling with the same thing, and now they have options again. Finally, kind of gives them a slight chance of hope again.
They can go get help and have a cigarette
Yeah, that's
or a vape, which would be preferable. But regardless, the idea of denying people who use drugs life-saving treatment simply because they are also using a legal drug
is just stupid.
is just insanity. To move along a little bit, but still kind of on the topic of Philadelphia, some good news, more good news out of Philadelphia. Court grants preliminary injunction against Philadelphia flavored vapor ban. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in chat as well really quick.
The CPS magazine one?
Yes. CSP. There we go.
Okay.
Lakeville, on April 6th, the judge proceeding over a lawsuit brought by NATO, the Asian American Licensed Beverage Association of Philadelphia, and R.J. Reynolds Vapor Co., granted a motion for preliminary injunction, finding that Philadelphia's ordinance restricting the sale of flavored electronic cigarettes and vaping products is preempted by Pennsylvania state law. So for people who aren't familiar with preemption, basically local laws cannot necessarily override state laws. They cannot be more severe, whatever, go past whatever the state law is. And that's essentially what happened here. They filed lawsuits and found that Philadelphia's ban was basically unconstitutional against Philadelphia's state law. It tried to preempt state law, and this prevented that. So at the end of the day, the temporary injunction means that all retailers can continue to sell these products. So not only do people who use drugs in Philadelphia and also smoke or use nicotine products like vapor products, not only can they seek help in treatment facilities and not be forced either out the door or to quit smoking and quit nicotine at the same time while they're trying to give up other substances, but also they can go buy those vapor products to hopefully make the switch and make all of those things just much better. Their lives just much better. Yeah, I'm just stoked about the things happening in Philadelphia right now. I think it's just a win all around for people in Philadelphia.
And it's nice talking about like a good moment when it comes to this kind of
stuff. Right. Like I love good news. We don't have enough of it anymore. It feels like it's always like, oh, hey, you guys, here's a ban, here's a tax, here's a bad thing. Philadelphia is just like, bro, we got nothing but good news.
And that's huge.
Yeah, I love it.
It's awesome. I'm very, very proud of everybody in Philly who fought for this and every advocate out there that. Yeah,
and huge shout out to, I just want to highlight Brooke Feldman in general. Again, if you're not following her on Twitter, please do. I will, in just a second, look up what her handle is on Twitter, and I'll put it in chat or something. Please go follow Brooke on Twitter, though.
Actually be on here.
Because she is just she's a powerhouse of an advocate for people in general, and just an incredible person. I'll see if I can find it real quick here. Search Twitter.
Yeah, let's see if you can.
Brooke, it is BROOKEM_Feldman, but I'll put it in chat here as well.
Yeah, give her a follow. She's doing some great things over there in the city of Philly, helping out a lot of people, saving a bunch of lives. What else can we ask for? Let's be honest here.
Yeah, I mean, she's just an incredible human being, and I
Imagine how
appreciate
many countless lives
the shit out of her.
that were saved from.
So there you
her
go.
actions
I just threw her handle in chat. So if you're on Twitter, I hope that everybody here in chat is on Twitter and advocating. Please do if you're not.
100%.
But yeah, go ahead, snag that handle right out of chat. Go look up Brooke. Go give her a follow because she's just an incredible human being.
Oh yeah, 100%. And just I'm gonna throw. I don't know if I. Oh yeah, I threw that article for talking about Billy and his I think this is something that, well, no, it was Bobby. Talking about Bobby with his addiction. I feel like that's a story that kind of people need to see. And it's like, because most likely this won't be the first city that has that kind of stupid regulation, unfortunately. I can feel like the cities all around the fucking country can suddenly pop up with that kind of stupid regulations because...
Oh, sure. I mean, we're just in, full drug panic with all of this right now. So,
and it's a story that kind of want to keep on bookmark it, keep it to something you can share to people that are possibly thinking like that may be in agreement to wanting to ban smoking on treatment centers, where they just kind of getting rid of a vice that people rely on when they're going through such a hard time with trying to recover from addiction and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I can't imagine what that does on the spirit of and like your mind.
Yeah, I mean, and really when we look at people's priorities, if you are currently using adulterated street drugs, because right now basically anything that's powdered out on the street is just you don't know what's in it. Right. Please also test your drugs. You can go get drug testing, fentanyl testing strips for your drugs. But the potential for overdose right now, I mean, we in 2020 we hit over 100,000 fatal overdoses. That is a record, and it is awful. And every one of those overdose deaths is a policy failure, period, across the board. Every single one of those 100,000 plus deaths is a policy failure for a lot of reasons. And I don't have the hours to talk about it and go through every one of those reasons, but every one of them is a policy failure. When we look at someone's priorities, those drugs, people using those drugs are at risk of overdose, great risk of overdose, and dying right now. Smoking takes decades to kill you. Decades to develop disease, heart disease, lung disease. And that's not to downplay the 480,000 deaths that still trump all of this, including gun deaths, car accidents, and multiple other diseases. Smoking still takes the cake there. But when we look at like sense of urgency in an individual's life, smoking can be put on the back burner for now. When you're looking at someone trying to get into treatment, to stop using street drugs, to get into a path of recovery, whatever that looks like for them, that is the urgency. That is, especially when people are actively seeking that, when they are trying to get that help and they're being denied because of something like smoking. Like it's so asinine.
It's sickening.
Like that's what I did. I didn't care about my smoking right then. I needed to stop using the drugs that I was using at the time because they were impacting my life horribly.
Right.
My concern for quitting, like, that wasn't my concern. And I had people talk to me like, oh, now you just need to quit smoking. Like, no, fuck you. Like, I just quit using all of these other things. Like, leave my cigarettes alone. I'll worry about that later. Like, let me have that, for crying out loud. People will literally ignore your other accomplishments just to tell you need to quit smoking, and it's fucking disgusting. Like, let people worry about that later. They'll get to that.
Vice.
Or they won't. Like, this coercive bullshit of forcing people to quit or die is utter nonsense.
Yeah.
For people who are actively seeking help to stop using whatever drugs they're having problematic usage with, let them focus on that. Let things like nicotine be on the back burner. Let smoking be on the back burner. We're going to continue to fight for their right to safer alternatives when they choose to go down that road. So yeah, just I'm done being fired up about it, but
I
but just
completely understand why you're fired
huge
up
shout
by
out
it.
to just Philadelphia in general for giving a shit about people, and I love it.
Yeah, because it's like you're speaking from personal experience too, so that's why it kind of hits harder than it would said somebody like me or somebody in chat right now. It hits differently with you, and that's why the passion's there. That's why you fight so hard for it. And seeing stuff like this happen in the city of Philadelphia, that's huge. It's like a morale booster almost. So like
Yeah,
the fighting
dude,
I'm doing every day, the fighting,
it's incredible, and
the amount of
and
tweets
I
that I'm
just
doing on like just the amount of bullshit that you're getting into on Twitter with people seems kind of worth it for that.
yeah.
Seeing positive change, and that's what we kind of look for when it comes to people being on Twitter, like tweeting at people, tweeting at representatives, sending out the information to people who aren't really knowledged in that kind of thing, and kind of giving them that information to kind of absorb it on their own pace and not shoving it down their throat. It's a great thing, and when you see it finally come out in a positive way, is makes everything you do seem worth it.
And I'm just thankful for all the people like in Philadelphia, people like Brooke, that just didn't stop fighting for this, and didn't stop fighting for people, and it's just incredible.
Huge. It's huge. Lives, countless lives have been saved because of that.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
just something that just kind of puts a smile on your face and kind of helps us start winding this thing out on a good note, which is really, really nice. We like ending this here kind of advocacy and news kind of talk with some lighter notes at the end, just to kind of boost a little bit of morale and all that kind of stuff, and not be so woe is me kind of situation. But of course, we always end this here what's in the news with talking about success stories, and of course success stories of people switching over to a safer alternative, aka vaping, which let's time to go down the CASA testimonial page. Of course,
I actually haven't looked at our testimony page in quite some time.
always
So
recommend, if you haven't put your testimony on CASA's website yet, please do so. Here's the link to the testimonial spot, or you can just go on CASA's website. Of course, testimonials is in bold at the very top of your screen. Just click it, and then it shows every single testimony you can do. A little like blanket kind of thing, how you can fill it out and all that kind of stuff. Really, really cool stuff over there. But let's look. Let's see who we want to kind of praise today.
I'm gonna highlight one really quick because it's super. Oh wait, maybe it's not. Yeah, it's super short and sweet. Testimonial number 13,392. This one comes from C.A. CA. They said, vaping and flavors save me from heart problems and lung issues from smoking. I can breathe and sleep better and have more energy. That's it. Dope. Awesome. Awesome, CA. Yeah. It did save you from heart problems and lung issues, and I'm glad that you can breathe and sleep better and you have more energy. Me too. I don't necessarily sleep better, but that has nothing to do with it.
Let's go and talk about, I don't think we've mentioned her before, but let's talk about somebody named Mary M, who did their testimony on CASA on October 28th, 2021. And she says, I've been vaping for nearly 5 years, skeptical about a vaporizer after smoking cigarettes for over 35 years. It has been smoking a pack a day every day. I no longer smoke cigarettes, and that in and of itself is a miracle. Not one cigarette in 4 years. I did not smoke a few when I first began vaping and tapered completely off after. Okay, she did smoke a few when she first began vaping, then kind of tapered herself off, which is a totally good reason.
Sure, everybody has a transition period of some kind. Most people don't overnight. I mean, there are people out there that overnight switch, but
right. And then she says, in the past, I would attempt to quit, and after a few days, I would go right back on the cigarettes. She's tried Chantix, gum, patches, hypnosis, you name it. not here to say one is better than the other. For me, vape is the best option. The positive of the vape over cigarette are cost. Let's see. Cost feeding for a cigarette, no more coughing, ashes everywhere, ashtrays, all that kind of stuff. The stench and family constantly complaining to me about my cigarettes. Let's see. I now vape juice from blank in our area retailer. I have tried online ordering and prefer made at the counter store. Let's see. VGPG levels need to be correct due to some allergies I have. And happy vaping to you. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to highlight just a few things on this one. It's a little tough to follow, Mary, but Corey did an excellent job getting through that. Kudos on your 4 years cigarette-free. That's fantastic. And yeah, if anybody goes through the testimonies on CASA's page, we do blank out brand names, again, because we're here for consumers, not for companies. We're not trying to promote any specific companies. Okay. So if you ever see the asterisks and the kind of blanked out name, just know that that's us removing that, just so that way, again, we're not promoting specific brands in general. And I think it's really cool that she gets things in-house, and they work with her on her PG-VG levels because she has an allergy. I know people personally. I have a friend, Kevin, who is allergic to propylene glycol. And so I used to go over and watch football games with him all the time, and I would order 100% VG liquids, just like little 15, 30 mil bottles of it from the store down the road, from the vape shop down the road. I would get that just so when I went over to his house, that's what I would vape. Just as a common courtesy, just to my buddy Kev, like, hey man, I got just VG liquid, no worries here. And I think that's one of those cool things that you don't find in commercial e-liquids, and maybe especially nowadays you're not going to really find that in commercial e-liquids anywhere. I know back in the day, a few years ago, there were a few brands that would do VG only or PG only, but it definitely was not a common thing, right? Your average is a mix of both across the board. But definitely, if there's any shops out there that are still doing, in-house mixes, they're most generally, they are very happy to work with you on any allergies and whatever levels of VG or PG that you need. And I think that's really cool.
That's what made in-house mixing such like a positive thing within the community, because the amount of like things you can do to specify that liquid for you to where it's like you had an allergy, or maybe it's just you're able to dial down almost perfectly of what kind of liquid you needed to make sure you stayed off cigarettes. I mean, down to the milligram of the nicotine that's in there. You could have done it. Oh yeah, like
for somebody like me, for example, right? Like I typically right now I have a 12 milligram in here, but when I mix my own for mouth to lung, I prefer 10. I make my own at 10 milligram.
I know people.
So I'm one of those people that really prefers a specific nicotine level that you don't get in commercial e-liquids. No. It's 3, 6, 9, 12. 9 doesn't even really exist anymore. 9 used to be a thing.
I haven't seen.
But it was always. Yeah, I haven't seen 9 in like 4 years or more. But yeah, 3, 6, and then typically now, I mean, you get like 0, 3, 6, and then you jump into salts. Really, there's a few people out there still mixing like 12 and 18 in traditional freebase, but.
Or you see how like Anarchist does it, where they do theirs in 2, 4. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're like, one of the very few that kind of
it's an option,
took the
maybe
even number
3 milligrams not enough for somebody, and that 4 might just be right at that threshold to where it's like, this is it.
Yep. And that's me. Like, I'll vape 12 and I enjoy 12, but for me, like on a personal preference for MTLs, 10. 10 is like the perfect sweet spot, satisfying every time. So I mix my own, Yeah, super cool. Kudos to you, Mary.
Yeah, so big shout outs to Mary. Of course, if you want to have your testimony read on this here show, always recommend doing it on the CASA thing. Who knows, you might be one of the next ones we read. Or you can send it to me and Logan personally. Shoot us up in the DMs. Doesn't matter if it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Hit us up. could be even in the Discords for all I care. I don't care. We're both in Discords. Most people in here know where to find us when it comes to any kind of social media platform. And send us your testimony, and we will read it on this here show. We'll always love hearing people's stories and how they made the switch. It's always kind of, because every experience is different. Not one person had the same experience when it comes to making the switch. So it's always cool reading those and just kind of seeing the individuality of people making that life-changing decision.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to somebody the other day who finally switched after a year of still, the first thing in the morning, they would still have a cigarette. Last thing at night, right before bed, they would still have a cigarette. Maybe one or two throughout the day. But for the most part, they used a Juul. Mm-hmm. And they did this for over a year. Mm-hmm. Finally just made the switch like 2 weeks ago.
That's awesome.
Fully stopped smoking.
Awesome.
And now, that's over a year of still smoking, going through that transition and finally putting it down. And then you have people that are overnight, they switch. You have people like me. Took me 6 days to make the switch. Corey, how long did it take you to switch?
Almost instantly.
Yeah. So again, everybody's transition is different and it's unique to them. And there is no wrong way. Like if you take a year to make that switch, that's just as good as doing it in a day.
Yeah, because when I made the switch, I was already off cigarettes for about a year.
You were a hookah guy.
Yeah,
I remember.
I smoked cigarettes up till maybe my sophomore year of high school, going from 13 to my sophomore year of high school, and then moved to hookah until I was probably, early 20s. And then around maybe 2015, maybe late 2014, around there, I found that my friend of mine, his now wife, was selling this little vape pen thing from Boulder. I was like, I've been curious about this stuff because I already was accustomed to the flavors from hookah and all that stuff, so I already know that flavors and nicotine can be a thing.
Fresh shisha.
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. I can't say for the scorch marks from the coals on my carpet, but I learned to do it in the garage after that. But then I bought it. It was $30. I spent $30 to buy this thing secondhand off his girlfriend at the time. And I was like, okay, I bought this thing. I have no liquid whatsoever. So that day, I went over to my local vape shop and says, I have this. I don't know how to use it. And I want to finally be done with combustion. So got a couple little 15 ml bottles of liquid back because that was one of the sizes. You either got 15 mils, 20 mils, or top was a 30 ml bottle. And took that first hit. Got the nicotine hit that I wanted.
Yeah.
Got the flavor that I was accustomed to already, and it's there was no turning back after that. It's just because it was such a similar experience between the whole thing I had to really become accustomed to was the whole having the routine of setting up your hookah. I think that was a kind of a therapeutic thing for me too.
Sure, and
it's
the funny.
Coals ready, having the tongs, holding them over your. Back in the day, I used to have the electric stove, having it sit on the freaking the coil and everything, and just waiting. Yeah.
It's funny too, we talk about all these sensory things, and one of the things that I kind of went on a mission really early on in vaping to find ways to replace those sensory ritual aspects of smoking in my vaping. And for me, it was things like packing my pack of cigarettes, right? So what I do a lot of times now when I shake a bottle,
like that,
I tap it. Because that's very reminiscent of me packing my pack of cigarettes, things like that you can find that replace those sensory things. You can do just about all of it. The only thing that I have yet to be able to replicate from smoking to vaping is ashing. That's that's it.
With okay. So you're
if I had
dripping,
if I had a little
unicorn
pod or something, maybe I could just flick it. There? Oh, tapping it off. Hey, there you go. That's actually pretty smart. I like that. Yeah.
Let's give that
but there's
a try
always a way there's always a way that you can replace those little things that you used to do smoking. There's a way to replicate that or replace that with vaping. And that's one of the things like early on that I really like looked for.
There's one thing that I did when I was doing hookah that I felt was always kind of missing when I switched over to vaping, because it was part of the ritual. You know, like I enjoyed heating up the coal over like the oven, all that stuff. There, I used to sit down and cut out pre-cut like sheets of tinfoil to put over your bowl where you would keep it in, and then you would poke the holes in and all that stuff. That's where you would put the coal on top of. Where I was like, that was the one thing I was always missing when it came to vaping. I'm like, I had nothing to replicate that sitting down and prep, like different prep to bear.
Well, I mean,
And I found something finally, and I can thank a lucky Australian who helped me find that thing, Mr. Adam Breezetones, who taught me about the cotton bacon roll method.
Oh, there you go.
You flatten out a sheet of cotton bacon, make sure everything's aligned, and then cut it into strips and everything. So I was making and that's all I do now. I have a little box from one of my old Druger RTAs that's always filled. I think it's empty now. I still need to do it. Yep, it's empty right now, but
always filled. Just kidding.
Yeah, I have bags. But this thing's always full of just like little strips of cotton bacon that I have pre-ready. So I just cut it off for a lot of my single coil stuff and all that kind of stuff. So it's like I finally found that thing that I felt was missing through the couple years I've been vaping. That it was like one thing I kind of missed doing, having like different prep work to kind of have that experience be all enjoyable. And I finally found it again, and it's kind of bringing back a little bit of like a sentimental feeling of it.
So I have two quick thoughts before we get out of here, before we wrap that up. Well, one thought and one thing I do want to highlight. TMS 420 in chat said that morning cig was the hardest for me. And I agree. The last two cigarettes over my 6 days, week or so of quitting, like the last 2-3 days, it was morning, night, and after meals. And the very last day that I smoked, it was my morning cigarette and my at night cigarette. And that next morning I got up and I just told myself, like, just vape, just vape. If I can get through a day, I can get through 2 days, I can get through 3.
Right.
And trust me, it was tough. But I did it and I never looked back. The last thing I wanted to mention, and this is just kind of a personal thing. I'm a cannabis user. I smoke cannabis. And I do often vaporize my cannabis. I dry herb vaporize. I have different products that I do that with. But every now and again, I still, over 4 years later, get the itch to smoke a cigarette, right? Like that hand feel in my hand, something rolled up, smoking it. And I personally will occasionally replace that with a joint. That's just one of those go-to things. And it'll take a while, right? Like it's a few times a year that I really just like, fuck, I just really want to smoke, right? So I'll just roll up the joint.
You can get that. It's not the same as the whole joint thing, but you can still vaporize. You heard James talk about it over.
Oh, the Dynavap. I have 2 of them. I know you're going to mention. That's one of the dry herb atomizers that I do use, and it is really good for that. You can hold it right in your fingers like that. It's small. It's almost the same size as a cigarette in your finger. And I do that a lot. There's still something, though, about like ashing and that whole experience. And so like when I really get that, like, fuck, I just really want one. That's how I fix that craving, that, hankering. I'll just smoke a joint.
If you have the chance, go back to the last
and
podcast
Scott said
episode they did, because they had the creator of the Dynavap on the podcast, and he had so many different, like, he opened their eyes on like they felt like they were using their Dynavap completely wrong, almost, to where I guess filling up your bowl only half full and not packing it in.
Interesting.
Everything.
I always pack it to the
next
brim.
Time you use it, fill it half full and don't like.
I will. I'm going to do that tonight. And actually, I do want to say, Scott, run in. This is why I still enjoy a cigar from time to time. So do I.
Yeah.
And I enjoy a cigar maybe twice a year. Most of the time, it's at some kind of special occasion, whether it's a wedding or something like that. I'm absolutely still going to enjoy a cigar. Cigars, typically, I mean, if you were to smoke cigars like you smoke cigarettes, full inhalation, not only are you probably going to throw up, yes, they are just as bad for you. It is combustion completely. But typically, if you were to moderately smoke cigars a few times a year or something like that, very moderately, and not inhale and enjoy a cigar the way a cigar is meant to be enjoyed, your risk is very low. Over the course of your lifetime, your risk enjoying a cigar from time to time like that, Scott, is very low. You're not in any immediate danger of getting lung cancer or any wild thing like that. So sure, Scott, you and me both, we can enjoy cigars from time to time. It is definitely a special occasion, few times a year at most. And my uncle was a backwoods smoker. Like, he smoked backwoods like a bag of them a day, you know? Yeah, that there's a problem in that aspect. But a cigar from time to time, special occasions, things like that, enjoy it. Live a little, Scott. Live a little. I'll live a little with you, my friend.
100%. Well, guys, that is what we have for you guys this evening. So thank you again for everybody for hanging out. You guys are amazing. Make sure to hit that like button. It helps us a lot. Also, go over, make sure you're giving Logan a follow on Twitter. Of course, if you want to hang out with the Rise and Vape crew, get over into the Discord. It's a fun group of people over there. And let's see what else we got. Of course, you can go over to Logan's Instagram, because every Sunday, I believe it's 8 p.m. Eastern.
You want me to shameless
I'll
plug
let you
here
do your
real
own
quick?
shtick.
Okay. If anybody wants to follow me on social media, it's just Logan_Exhales on Twitter and Instagram. Every Sunday at 8 p.m., occasionally 9 p.m., typically 8 p.m., I do a little show I call The Come Down, where we try a beer. My patrons vote on that beer. Each week, we try it in the stream. Sometimes I have a liquid that I'm trying as well. Usually I have a liquid that we're pairing that with, and we hang out. Very minimal advocacy. I try to throw a little bit of tidbits in there, but typically it's just a real chill time. Other than that, CASA, every Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, unless we put out onto the social media somewhere that we're not doing it. We're there every Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, to talk about all the things that we all need to know. So check it out. Follow CASA literally everywhere. YouTube, CASA Media. It's CASA Media on SoundCloud as well. There's a podcast that goes out every Monday following that stream that I work on, that I put out on our SoundCloud, and it goes out to Google and Apple and all the places where you listen to your podcast. So check that out as well. Please follow that SoundCloud for CASA. Addie, thanks for dropping my social medias. You can follow Rise and Vape on SoundCloud if you want. I haven't done a Rise and Vape podcast in a long time, real long time. But yeah, check out all the stuff. Follow all the things. Much appreciated. Love you guys, and I'll hand it back to Corey.
Yeah, that's pretty much, he explained pretty much everything. You guys know what we do over here and what I do over here on this channel, so don't really need to explain to you guys. Pretty much get the shindig of what we do and what each of us do individually. So I'm just going to end it like we always end it. We're going to get the hell out of here, and we will see you in 2 weeks, hopefully, if schedules apply correctly.
I should be good.
Yeah.
I should be good. So
I'm always up in the
here
air.
on out, I should be good.
Yeah, work's up in the air depending on what's going on that day with
I might be a little salty that day.
Bruce stuff. And, yeah, me working late, making beer or cleaning shit. Whatever I'm had to do. So, always, yeah. Thank you again, everybody, for hanging out, and we will see you all next time. See ya.